Hello everyone and welcome to another Starcraft 2 bots video. For this one we continue the Gauntlet tournament series. This is our season 2, where we're going to start a tournament from the bottom of the bot ladder. This is the S02AI Arena 2021 season 1 ladder, something like that, which came to an end about a month ago. And we start with the lowest ranked bot playing the next lowest ranked bot. Winner goes on to face number 62. Winner goes on to face 61. And last we left off, we saw Crustacean, which was a pretty impressive looking Terran bot for this low on the ladder. The micro is a little bit wonky, but at least there was some micro. But the composition was solid, and the build order was solid, and the expansions are solid. It muled. It looked like a really solid Terran bot there. So we'll see how this bot continues up the ladder. And then we can do all the way up until we face the top bots, including Micro Machine, the 97% win rate monster. So we're getting to the point now where we're starting to see some sort of competency in the bots. We've seen some massive gaps, including, if you missed last year, an amazing game between Lila and Empty Seat, where the ridiculousness of bots can show itself in a match. But next we have Crustacean, and his opponent today will be Tonybot by Tony430. And it is a Python bot, not much more information there. It was created somewhat recently, May 17th, but has not been updated since then. So definitely a new bot, and hope to see more from Tony in the future. But let's go take a look at this match as I load it up. Yeah, there we go. Let's, yeah, this is fine. I think on this view you can't see the timer, so I'll be able to hide that and then switch scenes. So this will be on Pillars of Gold. Okay. So spawning in the bottom left, we have the returning champion. It is Crustacean. And in the top right, we have the challenger. It is the blue Protoss. It is Tonybot. Let's get that production tab up. Pylon, and followed by more probes. Probably a generic method that just kind of chrono boosts when it's available. But ideally, you don't want to chrono boost probes until after your first pylon finishes, as you will hit a supply block. Gateway followed by Assimilator. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we do have the barracks coming down for Crustacean. Oh, it appears to even have a form of speed mining, which we will see in higher ranked bots. I didn't expect it to see this low in the ladder. But as workers approach the command center, or as they approach the mineral patch or the gas geyser, they do decelerate. So if you micro the SCV, you can kind of get it to not decelerate, although sometimes it's working well. It looks like sometimes not. You do have to kind of put them on move command, which means they will crash into other workers that are on move command. But I'm sure this is definitely a net gain. So a little bit of a acceleration boost there to the income for Crustacean. Second barracks going down, and actually a third barracks. So heavy barracks play this time. A little bit different of a build than we saw the previous match, which technically was against random, so not against Protoss. So it could be the Crustacean just has different builds, or it could be that his builds are specific to the race he's playing, and random might have a safer, let's build a third barracks just to be sure. Which isn't a bad idea, because random bots are a little more likely to all-in you. Just like random human players are more likely to all-in you. Appears we're grabbing a 4-gate. However, the Cyber Core was extremely late in that process. And no Chrono Boost left to Chrono Boost at Warp Gate. So, yeah, not the most efficient 4-gate we're ever going to see here. Possibly may even want to make a 5th gateway due to these issues in the build order. So, and that would help here. Scarlet actually made a bot on the scene, and she made a 4-gate bot, and of course, since she is a pro player, it is a perfect build order. So you get the 2 early gateways so that you can spend through your money on stalkers, then you chrono boost out Warp Gate, and then you finish your 3rd and 4th gateway just in time for Warp Gate to complete, and you make sure that one of those gateways is attached to your proxy pylon so you get the fast warp-ins. So, yeah, and the 3 barracks opener and all of a sudden is looking really smart. However, he did not get an orbital. Ooh, that's a big hiccup compared to the previous match. Orbital is so important. So that's like, he's probably like 500 minerals behind where he could have been now. That's 10 Marines could have been added to this army. Not getting the advantage of the high grounds. But at the same time, still a huge army lead. With Marauders on the field too, these Stalkers are not much of a threat. But oddly enough, high ground advantage goes to Tonybot. Oh, 2 more Stalkers going down. And this is a big trouble for Tonybot here. Warp Gate has complete, so he will be able to start proxying or warping in these Stalkers across the map. And as you can see, Tonybot does have a decent bank, so... These Stalkers are a little better at preserving their shields and staying back when they don't have shields. I could see this eventually picking away at these Marines as their health counts are getting quite low. But, well, it's a decent stalker count now. You abuse this high ground, you can pick away. Yeah, there's a couple more Marines went down, no Stalkers died. I mean, it's still looking terrible for Tonybot, but just this position is really nice. You know, the ability that you can't shoot back at these. You only shoot them when you can see their health bar. Right, so a lot of these are getting shots off. Ooh, a couple Stalkers dropping there. Marauders are still looking fairly healthy, except for a couple in the front. And actually, it might help kill the Stalkers quicker with these Marines dying off. A lot of the times the Stalker is able to shoot and retreat without taking any damage because the Marines were blocking the Marauders. And long term, we do have the expansion. So eventually, the economy is going to become an issue for Tonybot. Either Tonybot starts mining up patches in his main base, or this natural base gets saturated by Crustacean and then he gets double the income. Or a mixture of both. Yeah, it's a very nice position here for Tonybot. Gave him a good chance of maybe trying to crawl back into this, but he just sacrificed too many units at the start of the game. The 4-gate build order was not optimized at all, which was a big problem. And then also he was facing a build that just looks like a good blind counter to this. 3 barracks with a bunch of Marauders. That's a nice way to beat a 4-gate. 4-gate really wants to catch like a 1 barracks expand off guard. Unfortunately, no target selection for Tonybot either. He seems to be like 4 red units and he shoots the one that's high in health. Is there a follow-up? 1 patch is already down for Tonybot. I don't suspect he's going to expand. If he transitions, there could be a world where this trickle of Stalkers distracts Crustacean forever. while Tonybot goes up to like expanding and stargates or something in the background. But right now, like, if Crustacean pushes out, this game ends. Although I guess loss is not... Well, it's 2-1. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Almost 3-1. Yeah. And this trickle of Stalkers is even becoming a slower trickle. As... Well, I guess Gas is still not a bottleneck. With one mineral patch down, it's probably the income's probably perfect to build Stalkers with, I guess. Normally you float a little bit extra minerals. Not the case now. Combat Shield is done for Marines. That's going to be a nice boost to their survivability. More add-ons being put on. +1 is on the way. More barracks. Still no orbitals, unfortunately. A little bug there. So we did see it in the previous match. Maybe it will still build orbitals. Maybe it has some sort of code like, I'm under attack right now, I need to spend all my money on army, I can't afford to be building orbitals right now. And since he's always under attack, that code will always prevent the orbital from being built. But then that wouldn't explain why he didn't build orbital at the start of the game, I guess. Although with 3 barracks, he could have expected that he was getting all ins. In which case, no orbital would make you stronger for a small period of time. Like the period of time while you're producing the orbital and before the first mule finishes mining. Push out is getting far across the map here. A lot of these units are deep in the red, but there goes the proxy pylon. Down to 4 mineral patches is Tonybot, which means he's going to be floating gas, yeah. So that's going to be half the stalker count. And at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and speed it up. I don't think we're going to see a transition out of Tonybot here. He did build the 5th gateway as I suggested because the build order was off, but he also built a 6th gateway as well, which seems a little too much. But again, it might be something that's not actually planned as part of a build order, but more of like based on resources, if I'm floating at gateways, you know, more of a generic piece of code that works for any amount of bases. Adding 4 more command centers, actually. Crustacean is taking over the map. Just in time for the game to end. Oh, Tonybot actually conceded. There's still a assimilator there. I guess it decided, yeah, with just an assimilator, it's unlikely for the comeback to happen. All right, let's go back and take a look at the ladder. Alt F4 out of that game. Oh well. How long has that been frozen for? Something's weird with this new webcam where it just kind of locks up with OBS. Right, so Tonybot's taken down by Crustacean, so we will be moving on. Now, Rusty Locks is actually a house bot. It's just one of these practice bots that we have that we put on the ladder to... I guess when a season first starts, all the veteran bots put their bots on the ladder, and the new bot authors come join, and there's only veteran bots to play against, and it was like, well, this isn't fun because my bot's brand new and is playing all these veteran bots that are kicking my butt. So adding some house bots just gives a nice variety, and it also gives some lower level bots for new authors to play against. So I'm going to go ahead and skip Rusty Locks, and we'll move on to RISC Worker Rush. Oh, Risc. Okay. Well, it's written by Risc, so it's called Risc Worker Rush, and I'm guessing I know what this thing does. So we can take a look at that. No biography there, but we do know it's a Python bot. Is this right? Did I skip something? No, I didn't. Okay, here we go. So Crustacean versus Risc Worker bot. And this will be a game on Everdream. And let's pause the game, switch scenes. Production tab, and here we go. So spawning in the bottom left, we have the red Zerg. It is the... Just looking at the chat here. Well, that's the name of this structure, the Vespine Geyser. So I did a little bit of an extractor trick, and then he's off. Even queuing up attacks to all the different bases in a weird order. So I'm guessing this is going to be more of an A-moved bot. Or maybe we'll see some micro when it arrives. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we have the returning Champ Crustacean. We're going to see if he has any sort of Worker Rush defense code. It's not something you typically see people code early on, so I'm a little worried for Crustacean here. Depot did finish, Barracks is complete, and he's going to see the drones momentarily. And no reaction. Okay. Trying to replace SCVs that died. Which does mean it keeps his mining going longer. Gas is on the way. Not replacing the workers anymore. Oh, and the SCVs are all broken. Looks like they're still trying to do that speed mining, but they're kind of messed up at the same time. Okay, once the barracks went down, everything fixed. So it's something to do with pulling SCVs to replace the SCV that died. Kind of broke the speed mining. A little bit of a bug there for down the man to fix. And now what? And no reaction at all. Oh boy. Now, there is still the chance of a draw. Maybe he lifts off his barracks. If you lift off the barracks, I don't suspect a Worker Rush bot will be developed far enough to be able to get past that. A couple SCVs are actually queued up, so even if there was code to lift off the barracks, it's not going to be capable of doing that until this SCV completes. And on completion, no, just queued up 2 more SCVs. Which also might be a bit of a glitch as well. I'm guessing it's not meaning to queue up 2 SCVs, it's probably trying just to build 1. It might be trying to play on every game frame, and on every game frame, the information you get is a little bit delayed. So you might have thought, like, on one frame he queues up an SCV, and on the next frame he doesn't know that he queued it up, so he queues out and up again. Anyways, no money left to build SCVs and still no liftoff is possible. So unfortunately, things were looking good for Crustacean, but it is a new bot, and eventually we're going to find a weakness in it. And there it is. Worker rush complete. And I won't say unfortunately, but I will say likely we might see quite a few wins out of this bot. I'm not sure how many bots down here can handle worker rush. Now, if they use certain frameworks, like I think the Sharpie framework, if there is a worker rush defense built into it, I think. It's not great, but it exists. Like, it will pull the workers and attack. So that might be enough to deal with it with the defensive advantage. But actually, the next opponent is Harvester Zerg, which is quite a high-level bot. I don't know what it's doing on here. This was a bot created by Dr. Imphy, who is not only the creator of some of the best bots we have on the scene, like Sharpened Edge and the Harvester, but also the author of frameworks, including the Sharpie framework. And I believe this bot uses machine learning. So maybe something broke in the machine learning and dropped this bot. But I think this bot was much higher ranked than this at one time. So anything could happen. Let's go take a look at Harvester Zerg and see what write-up we have here. So Harvester Zerg is a Zerg bot written in Python. It is a hybrid RL. Come on, you know this acronym. What type of learning is that? R learning bot. It does not use supervised learning and starts from scratch with no information. Harvester uses Sharpie for all of its macro and micro, but the decisions on what to build comes from the RL model. Deep learning, machine learning. Jeez. All right, Google. Rocket League. Reinforcement learning. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch that game. Yeah, so like I said, this bot is using an advanced framework, and it's an advanced bot itself. Obviously, it probably has some problems because of the reinforcement learning. But yeah, worker rush defense, I could see this bot definitely having it. It's funny, the scene swapper sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. All right, so let's go ahead and swap scenes here and get the intros going quickly as we know what's going to happen. So spawning in the top right, we have the challenger. It is Harvester Zerg. Meanwhile, in the bottom left, we have the returning champ. It is RIC Worker Rush. And here comes the workers. So Overlord's on the way. And then we'll get some more drones and get a nice little drone lead. I guess we can actually bring up the units tab, as the drone count's probably going to be the important parts here. Pool first. That actually might come into play. Pool before gas or expansion. And drone is heading across the map, which means he will get sight of... Actually, the Overlord saw it as well. These drones are trying to attack the Overlord. I think. Oh, they're killing this drone as well, so it's hard to tell. They definitely seem to be trying to kill that Overlord, which bought more time. Worker count is up to 17 now for the Harvester, and going to be able to make Zerglings very soon as well. So let's see if there's any sort of reaction here. Drones are trying to kill an egg. Okay, here comes the Worker Rush defense. So it has recognized it. And with a larger drone count and possibly Zerglings on the way, let's bring the production tab back up. No, but there is a queen on the way. Worker count dropping like crazy. 17 to 7, 16 to 6, 16 to 3 to 1. And I think that's all she wrote for the worker rush bot. Is this actually heading home and going to try to rebuild from one worker? Or is it just retreating until it gets to a certain hit point level? Speeding up to 2x speed because I'm pretty sure this game's over. It is weird that he took off at 44 minerals, I gotta say. Could have had one extra drone there. Okay, up to 50, and there's another drone in the way. So he's going to attempt to come back. I am kind of interested to see if he has a follow-up play, or whether he's just going to make more workers and go. And I think we just got our answer. So let's go up to 8x, as I'm sure this is over, and Worker Rush Bot just called it for some reason. Not sure why. He just saw an Overlord. It's not an even time. I wonder what made him quit. Like, you wouldn't say if it's 3 minutes and 19 seconds in, assume I lost. You wouldn't say if I saw an Overlord, I assume I lost. You never saw the Zerglings. Anyways, this game was writing us on the wall anyways, so let's be happy that it ended as quickly as it did. So, nice reaction there by Harvester Zerg, showing off some of the features of the Sharpie framework. Does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Nice place to get started if you're a new bot author. To use Python and use that framework. And then you can concentrate more on your strategy than all the nitty-gritty details of you know, how to do things with the bot. Yeah, so that puts let's see, Harvester Zerg is a victory over Risc Worker Rush. Next up is going to be the first of 3 Lucid bots that are coming up soon. I wonder if there'll be a Lucid team kill or not. The first one being the lowest ranked bot at rank 51, which is Lucid TJS. These are the first bots written in Node.js or JavaScript. And I believe the only ones on the ladder using that language. This bot currently contains a 111 Marine tank donut formation. As I scratch my eye, I try to think of what the heck donut formation means, and a medevac composition. Found Terran to be the most difficult to code, particularly the lifting and landing logic, as well as the add-on management. Yeah, so if you pick just like a random place where you can fit a barracks, you might then, when you do an add-on, have to move it to actually fit the add-on, which means you gotta lift it, you gotta find a new location to land it. Probably the easier way is to always build in a location where the add-on location is available as well. Recent changes improve logic for SCV scout survival, fix bug where refinery built too early, fix balance resource bug where trying to build add-on. Interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and load up that game. So it's going to be Harvester Zerg versus Lucid TJS. It's bloody hair. So looking forward to get a haircut this weekend. And our province moved into the next phase of reopening. With the exception of one town, and it's the town I live in. Because we just had like a Delta variant breakout, so looks like it's going to be another couple weeks before I get my hair cut. Right, so let's pause that, hide the timer, production tab, switch the scene. There we go. Ready to go. Let's do this. So spawning in the bottom left, we have the red Terran. It is the challenger. It is Lucid TJS. Meanwhile, in the top right, we have the returning champ showing his worker rush defense. It is Harvester Zerg. Also, our first and probably most advanced, well, I can't say that for sure, but our first machine learning bots we have on the ladder. Now, any machine learning bot we have on the ladder is going to be always a mix of some machine learning and then the rest being taken over by some sort of scripted stuff. So we have bots that like choose build orders based on machine learning, or choose what units to build based on like the composition based on machine learning, or yeah, mostly those two things, maybe some other stuff. We have a bot that does this build order based on machine learning, but we don't have any bots like AlphaStar that are like everything's done by machine learning. Even AlphaStar, I don't think everything's done by machine learning. Yeah, so the scouts do pass each other in the night. Drone arriving first is going to see the barracks, the command center, and the single gas, and even getting vision of the other gas. So a nice little pathing here as it's able to travel around the base and see everything it needs to see. I don't scout with my bot, but I always wonder how deep the decision making is on scouts that bots use, or whether some bot authors even just do a worker scout and use no information based on that. But since they see pro players scout, they decide they're going to scout too. I think this is probably the biggest piece. Like, are they expanding or are they not expanding? That's a really good way to know. It's like, should I defend or should I play a macro game? But you can tell so much information. You can count the workers very easily and see if one's missing. That's a nice way to know if there's a proxy going out on the map. You can look at the gas, look at the refinery and see how much gas is mined and kind of figure out the timings for different things. And if our bots ever get really refined on its builds, like the more refined bots gets with their builds, the more information you can get by scouting. Because then even just like if a gas is taken 5 seconds later, you can probably make some conclusions about what's going to happen 5 minutes down the road. But if our bots are doing like wacky builds for getting things for no particular reason, like it is right now, then you can't make too many conclusions. A bot may take both gas geyser and then just marine rush you, you know? Bots can do weird things like that. It's kind of the same thing in the human level. Like, pros can tell so much from what they scout, but if you scout a Bronze League player, you can't make any conclusions, because Bronze League players are bad and they do things unoptimally, so you can't conclude things based on what you see. Anyways, Lucid is going to be... Ooh, it's going to be close. No, not able to get the Overlord, who wasn't even heading to this high ground position. It looks like he was just retreating and got lucky. He might have been retreating here. Some bots understand high ground vision and where's the safe spot to be. Overlord coming back. Nice defensive bunker here. Factory on the way. Meanwhile, Harvester Zerg is taking its third hatch. Pool is complete. Heavily oversaturated on the main base. No gas to be taken yet. When these hatcheries finish, however, he will be able to Maynard over these drones. So I don't mind this at all, but man, it would have been nice to have an earlier second hatch. I wonder if the decision to build so many drones is based on seeing a bunker, under the assumption a bunker means defense. The expansion could also mean your opponent's being greedy, so he's not going to attack anytime soon. And this is also something that could be solved through machine learning, right? This can be like logic you put in, but this is also something that a bot could figure out, right? Like when I'm greedy against a bunker, I win a lot, but if I'm greedy against someone who hasn't expanded and doesn't have a bunker, I lose a lot. And that could be solved. Yeah, Crate Spread is beginning. We've got a Spinecrawler at the natural. Roachhorn is down. We'd have a first Evo Chamber. A little bit of a scout at the front there is able to spot the Cyclone, the Viking. We didn't see the tank, however. Another barracks coming down for Lucid. Lucid is a bot that's like all the Lucid bots are very low on the ladder, but it's only a matter of time before they explode up the ladder, I think. I think the author is still active at it. I didn't check recently, but I think he's still actively developing. And when I see him chat, he's developing like some really advanced stuff. So yeah, I think eventually we'll say for where he is at the ladder, this bot is far more advanced than other bots at that point of the ladder. So I think if he becomes a little more strategically minded and like maybe like a optimized build order, or like there's gotta be some weakness in this build that can be solved, and balloon this bot up the ladder. Yeah, so that's what he's talking about. He tried to land here, tried to build the add-on. There's nothing blocking it, but siege tanks count as structures. You can't push them away, so then he couldn't, so I had to lift off again and try again. Yeah, actually just looking at this bot, I'm surprised it's ranked this low in the ladder. I was about to say it probably just has some like really basic flaws that keep it down here, but I'm not seeing anything particularly huge. Like the third base is certainly late, but he has the orbital here. Assuming he floats it out soon, it's not terribly late. He's got a good composition, he's got the right upgrades coming. Yeah, certainly by 7 minutes you want to be taking your third. Not a terrible comp. He's got tons of minerals. I'd really love to see that third base float out. Like basically, like as you're saturating your natural base, you really want to be thinking about taking your third. You really want to be building non-stop SCVs and have all those SCVs be importantly active, like under the 16 of 16. So obviously there's times you can't expand, like if you're dying or if your opponent's being ultra aggressive. But if he's not, you really want this base to be completed right when this base gets fully saturated. And you keep doing that until you always you want to at least maintain a 4-base economy at all times. The 5th base isn't as important because you're probably not going to build SCVs enough to saturate 5 bases. But you certainly want to be building your 5th base as your 1st base is mining out. So it could just be like a basic economy thing, keeping Lucid a little bit lower. Look at that. He's stimmed, but just the Marines in the front. That's pretty advanced. Nice composition, medevacs. And I haven't been looking at the Harvester at all, which is bad. No more mention about what's going on with the agents, but nice little composition here. Roach Ravager, Hydra, Zergling. Can't complain about that. The only thing missing from the mix would be Bailings versus certain compositions. I think the thought process is that Bailings are going to be tough versus bots because bots naturally kite backwards and they kind of like, which makes them split out in a concave, which makes splash damage a lot weaker. But that's mostly like theory craft. I haven't seen a bot really try to use Bailings versus a bio-heavy composition. I suspect they would still get a lot of work done. Because I also suspect most people aren't like using siege tanks to try to focus down clumps of Bailings anyways, so the siege tanks may end up shooting Zerglings, which will do friendly fire, and then the Bailings can like label all the Marines. Spiny certainly uses Bailings, but I think he uses it more as like a brute force way to plow through a planetary fortress. But maybe not. Maybe he uses it against bio compositions too. So big move out's coming. I know human players don't do it, but I think for bots, adding a single Raven to your army just kind of makes sense. It'll help versus if you face any like lurkers or cloaked units, and then you can also clear out creep. So big attack here. Most of the tanks are not sieged up, but that's still a ton of bio. That's stim. The medevacs are leaving. Where are you guys going, man? You guys got work to do. There's injured bio over here. It looks like the plan is to retreat. But the guys who are still actively fighting are not retreating yet. So I understand that logic, right? If you're in a fight, you don't want to just walk away and die. But if you're not in the fight, you want to, you know, then you want to get the reboot commands. Oh, SCV even coming out to repair was interesting. I also noticed he took out the destructible rocks on the way back. Perhaps he brought this back to deal with a counterattack, and perhaps the counterattack was just a single creep tumor. That might have been it. It's like, oh shoot, there's enemies at my base. Even though the enemy's just a creep tumor. Yeah, it looks like this is the runaway, and this is kind of what you want to avoid. What I was talking about is like, yeah, if you're already in a fight, keep fighting. But everyone else retreat back home. Tanks are returning and taking out rocks on the way back. Opening up more attack paths. Nice creep spread out of Harvester Zerg. It's not spread in all directions, but it is right across the entire map. And it's on the main attack paths. I assume the unit's loss tab is well in favor of the Terran. Yes, so that fight went quite well for him. This is a 4-base Zerg. Still. It's also a 4-base Terran. Okay, this is actually not looking too good for Harvester Zerg. He's going to have to take better fights. Because he doesn't really have an economic lead. The creep spread is nice. And this composition could do well. If you had some Broodlords, that'd be nice. If that's what the Corruptors are for. They're even nice tanky units, you know. The Marines are going to be busy shooting the army, so you can send in these tanky Corruptors, and they're likely to be able to kill off the medevacs. Okay, so big attack coming in. Bad angle to fight in. Gives a huge concave. Even in the Liberator, oh my goodness. This is going to be a slaughter. More tanks in the back that are unsieged at the moment, but that's fine. They're like to join the fight, so sometimes it's better to keep them unsieged if they don't get the siege up in advance. Wow. That was a slaughter. I mean, a learning bot or a scripted bot, there's basically no bot that understands, you know, that you don't want to attack in when when the opponent's army's in a huge concave. It's really hard to identify that, to identify terrain chokes. Gen Z bot does it a little bit, because there's this map analyzer that was created by a lad. It's a nice way to like identify high ground and choke points and stuff, and then you can kind of choose to take fights there. But for the most part, you know, units just kind of attack, and the idea of the shape of your composition to the shape of your opponent's composition is a little too far advanced for where the bot world's at the moment. But one day, I'm sure we'll get there. I mean, performance is also a bottleneck for bots, so things that are like super advanced on calculations that you gotta do every single game frame could be a problem for performance, especially with Python. Although Python got a lot faster recently. I think they upgraded to the latest version of Python, and it helped with certain things. Nice little Liberator setup. The Corruptors will take down the Liberators before they can do too much work, which is nice, but there's just no army. Single Swarm Host for some reason. I remember like a year ago, the original iteration of Harvester Zerg had a game where it tried to kill Void Rays with Swarm Hosts all game long. And the casters of the Probots actually thought that the game was over. It's like, yeah, this Protoss is killing everything. But the Harvester Zerg kept expanding, and the Protoss Zerg stayed on one base, and eventually the Swarm Hosts got across the map and ended the game. But it was funny to see Locusts flying in the air, chasing Void Rays around. Able to hold off another attack. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where the creep is actually blocking expansion bases. Although there's still at least one more base available. Another army being set up. I would give Harvester a little bit more of a chance here if it was continuing to expand. You know, we've all seen hundreds of games where Zerg loses each fight in terms of value, but still ends up winning the game just because they can expand faster, get the bigger economy, and just kind of swarm. And might be behind 2-1 on units lost tab, but can still pull it out. Lucid is actually having a little bit of trouble expanding here. Like, these bases are not going orbital or planetary. These orbitals are not muling anymore. I guess at some point in the game he just uses it for scans, but he's not scanning either. Maybe if there was like a burrowed unit he would scan. I'm not quite sure. He's still producing army, which is good though, and he's still using the army well. But there's some issues going on here. Like, when's this base gonna get saturated, right? Main base is mined out. Natural base is mined out. Army returning back home. Medevacs are broken as well. Nope, there they come. Okay. Oh, don't lose that medevacs. You need them. That is a scary looking army. That's so many siege tanks. Especially against a ground-based army like this. Do these storm hosts actually work? Yes, they do work. Okay, they're throwing at locusts. There's Bailings. They're slow banes, unfortunately. Yeah, definitely need speed on your Bailings. But even with speed, they would not have gotten into range with this sort of army size and this many tanks. But once again, back on the retreat. He always retreats like most of his army, but some of the stuff that's in the front continues on. And this time, just the splash units that are in the front might be enough to end this game. Taking out one of the fresh bases of Harvester would be massive, although I think he's going to be able to hold it. Yeah. Ooh. Lucid may be stuck on 5 bases. Although 5 bases will likely be enough. Not able to recognize the creep blocking there. And I don't think he'll attempt to come over here. Because why expand here when you're already expanding here? Or so he thinks. Alright, another big push and another onslaught probably by Lucid here. Nicer attack angle this time for the Harvester, but you know, when you got 10 times the army supply, it doesn't matter for Lucid what the attack angle is. But again, sending most of his stuff home after the fight. The other thing Lucid has is a nice little bank here as well. These fights are going so well that he's able to stay maxed out. And everything's coming back again. Oh no, pulling drones to fight. Not good. Could this be the finishing blow, or will Lucid retreat once more? Yeah, and that would be the last mining base. I think we're going to go ahead and speed up this match. As it appears, Lucid has finally decided now is the time. You've suffered enough. But yeah. Nice looking bot. Actually, he was able to expand on here, interestingly enough, as he constantly attempts to take that base as well. So maybe he even gets to expand up to the top. Not sure where these tanks are still sieged up over here about, but yeah, some minor issues with Lucid, but we can see that it's a very strong bot. It's almost like a Crustacean, but better in every way. Right? The build order is stronger, the upgrades are faster, the composition's better. And a nice little forest of like tank liberator bio. And probably, I assume if he needed Vikings, he would get them, but he wasn't really facing much of an air threat. Need to upgrade the command centers, although. Looks like the first 3 bases might be part of like a hard-coded build order. And that's why they got turned into orbitals. And then the additional bases that get built later on just haven't been developed enough to know to get an upgrade. Maybe it's something like they're going to be planetaries, but don't get the planetary until you get attacked, because otherwise you just wasted resources. It might be something weird like that, which isn't the best logic, but it could be something like that. So maybe if an attack came down this way, he would start morphing this into a PF. Who knows? Anyway, so we'll call it the end of this video. Let's see. Take a look at the ladder here. So Harvester Zerg had a nice little win over Worker Rush, but was not able to surpass Lucid TJS. And now Popo will be up next. And Popo has an opportunity to defeat all 3 Lucids. So no pressure at Popo. Yeah. And then we're getting into some bots that, yeah, with some names that are a little more familiar to me as we move up the ladder. Now we start seeing some names here I noticed from pro bots. Chaos Bot might be one of the most fun bots to watch. He lives up to his name. He does the craziest strategies, and his building placement seems to be completely random. If you kill his main base, it means nothing, because he can have bases everywhere and his production can be everywhere. So the main base is basically no different than an expansion. Yeah. And this time, since there's no official Gauntlet tournament going on, we're going to go all the way up to the top. So we'll have a true winner this time. And Probot starts on July 8th. Is that right? If it's July 8th, then I'm probably not going to finish this series in time, because we still got a lot of games left. We've gone from what, 64 up to 51. Yeah, so we're like not even a quarter of the way through. Let's see if I can check Probots here. It is starting on, where's the date? Here's the bracket. July 8th, it looks like. That's what it says on the bracket, at least. Yeah. July 8th. So that's starting soon. Yeah. So I guess we'll put a link to that in these videos, because if it's not live yet, it will be live soon. Or keep an eye on these videos. Once there's actually a scheduled first stream, I'll put a link in the description of all these bot videos. Yeah, so that's going to be the tournament. So it's going to take the top 4 from last season, which is Tier, Micro Machine, myself, and GenZBot. And then beyond that, it's going to take the top 12 authors from the AI arena. So we're going to be facing some really strong bots here. I guess Veteran is how you pronounce that, is a really strong Terran bot from the past who came back recently and is right up there with the top Terrans. Shark bots and additional pylons are 2 Protoss bots that just keep getting stronger. So there's something to look out for. And Eris has taken the place of Spiny. It's Rasper's new Zerg bot in combination with his teammate Paul. And yeah, Spiny was already like a top 3 bot and by far the best Zerg bot. And Eris is probably, by the time Probots comes around, will be even stronger than Spiny. They're around equal strength at the moment. So I think those are probably the ones to look out for. Prism Beams can be pretty strong too, versus certain opponents. Even Micro Machine. I don't believe Micro Machine can beat Prism Beams. Like it's a proxy Void Ray bot. I think Micro Machine beats him by counterattacking. I don't think he can actually hold the proxy Void Rays. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, that's how strong proxy Void Ray is. It's beating up on one of the top Terran on the top Terran on the ladder, the top bots on the ladder. Yeah, Creep Mine is the other Zerg bot that made it in. Last entry, but making it is making it. Yeah. And I'm hyping Shark bots and additional pylons just because they're how fast they're getting better. But with that said, I still think Sharpened Edge is probably the top ranked Protoss bot. So yeah. And then myself and Micro Machine are 1-2 on the ladder. And then Tier is just a sniping machine. As we saw last season, he came up with let's say an unorthodox way of defeating both of us. Couldn't take us in a macro game, but cheesed us out and became the grand champion. So Tier is always a scary opponent. So this will be fun. Anyways, I digress. We'll call it the end of this video. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.